me now?
Yes.
Okay. I have the privilege of sharing with you for 2 weeks, this week and next week. So I decided to make a mini series. So this is like a very short series. And the title is Reliance and Relationship. And this first week is Trust and Faith. We're going to get to Stephen in a little while. I feel the need to explain this little series to you. What we're going to look at is relying on God. And so that's the reliance part this week. And that is the vertical part of the cross. Looking up to God and relying on Him. And then the relationship next week is the vertical part of the cross, in which we look at how we relate to God and relate to our fellow men and women. So before I go into the scriptures, I want to give you kind of like, how do you say it? An outline, okay? Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them. So I'm going to actually tell you today the outline, just in case you fall asleep or something. You at least said, I heard this, I know what's going on. This is what he attempted to say, So the first one will be a little story that tells about the unchanging truth of God. And then we're going to look at kind of like an Old Testament background to see how God is. The reason we have this is because we want, by the time we get to Stephen, we want to have this mindset where we can look up to God and says, I can rely on Him. I trust Him. I will let Him allow God, allow Jesus to help me through this time. And so that's basically what hopefully you will get out of it. Now you can all go to sleep or something. All right. This is a devotion. I used this devotional for myself, but originally bought it for to teach our girls. And it's really meant for young children. And it's called Josh McDowell's Family Devotion. And it's a devotional for passing on the biblical values to the next generation. And if you want to know, the author is by Bob Hostetler. So in this one, it's called Truth is Unchanging. So that's a little devotional that is for this particular day. So a little boy comes in and he says, hey, Mom, guess what we learned in school today? And so he takes off his coat. He comes from school, and his mom looks at him and says, what did you learn? Right? That's how moms act. They don't say, but what did you learn? She's excited. She wants to know. So, and little Victor, this is the devotional name for him. He goes, did you know, Mom, that the people think back then the earth is flat? Okay, that's his statement. And then Mom goes, what? You learned that? Kind of thing. She wants to encourage him to talk on. And little Victor says, yep, that's what I learned. And so he says, it's not flat, it's round. Right? So I hope we all know that. And Mom says to him, well, you mean that all those years that people thought the world was flat and it wasn't flat? And so Victor kind of thought for a while. Yeah, I guess. So the mom says, what people thought didn't change what was true, did it? what people thought didn't change what was true. And Victor's guys kind of thought about it in his little mind, says, no, it didn't. So Mom has this little question for him. Let me ask you one more question, Victor, before you go outside to play, Mom said. Some people says the Word of God isn't true. She paused. What do you think about that? So Victor, in his little mind, ponders that question, and he thought for a while, and he said, what they think doesn't matter, does it, Mommy? And Mom says, you're right, Victor, because truth doesn't change. All right, so we set up the scenario in which we have a little story that talks about truth not changing, maybe God not changing. And now we want to take another look at God, because we want to set up the premises that God can be relied upon, that we can trust in Him. And so I'm going to tell you kind of like hopefully a quick story of how God works and delivers the people from slavery. It all started with a little boy named Joseph. Not that Joseph over there. But the biblical story is a guy named Joseph. He's like number 11, I guess, you know. And what happens was I guess number 11 wants to have attention, right? And he tells the people, I'm going to be great, you know. He tells his brother, I'm going to be great. He tells his parents, I'm going to be great. People are going to bow down to me and worship me, so to speak. And everybody's like, you? Why? And what happens is through the story, the brothers got upset with him, sold him to some traveling people who went to Egypt, who put Joseph in Egypt. And the reason I tell you this is how God works, not just immediately. God takes His time to take care of us. And so here we have Joseph as a young man in Egypt and does well in Egypt and gets all the way to be like, not exactly the Pharaoh, but the second in command because of certain sets of circumstances. And so he is basically number 2 in charge. And what had happened is that it allows God to bring, let me see, I got to go back a little bit. It was at this time, there was a huge famine when Joseph arose to prominence and in control. And what's happening is all around that area in Egypt and even up to, let's say, Canaan and the Israel area, they were all in famine. And so this allows Joseph to bring his whole family, 70, it says, about 70 people, into Egypt and to take care of them. So now we have Joseph growing up, being number 2, brings family to Egypt, and they stay, and it said they multiply. I mean, they were like rabbits. You know what that means, right? So lots of people. The old Pharaoh dies. A new Pharaoh comes into power. But the new Pharaoh, after many generations, does not understand, does not appreciate what had happened in history, what Joseph did. And he's saying, this Pharaoh says, there's too many of these people. I'm afraid they might overrun us and take control of the country. And so, for whatever reason, they instigated or made it a policy, we will subjugate these people. We will be hard taskmasters. We will make them work. In fact, eventually they got enslaved. And so now we're talking about these Israelites who were from 70, who were with Jacob, the father of these people. They are almost like a nation of people, but they are now subjugated. They are actually slaves of the Egyptians, of Pharaoh. And so they work very hard. They complain. They said, oh, who will deliver us? And this is where God comes back up into the picture. Not that he's out of the picture, but it says, God, remember these people. All right. And so he sets up another guy to deliver them. And this guy is a guy named Moses. And Moses grows up. Moses is protected. And we have many stories about Moses. But basically, Moses is finally called by God to deliver a people from slavery. And he goes in and he talks to the Pharaoh and says, let my people go, please. You know, he was nice in the beginning. Let us go worship out that way. You know, just let us go. But Pharaoh, he's smart or dumb, depending how you look at it. He says, I'm not going to let you guys go. If you guys go, you guys are going to run away. This is no good, you know. And Moses says, just let some of us go. No way, you know. So this goes on for like 10 plagues. It's very interesting. In the beginning, they don't call them plagues. They call them signs and wonders. These 10 signs and wonders to let the Egyptian people know that this is a God who is in control. This is a God who is in control of the elements. This is a God who is in control of everything. This is a God also who cares, because from the point of the story, it was God who cares about these people that he starts setting up the procedures to release the Israelites. All right? So this is what I want you to know. We got God. We have truth is unchanging. We have God is unchanging. We have God is all powerful. God is all caring. And so God is still powerful and caring in Steve's time. So Stephen's time. So this is where we go and we come to this part. It's not on there, but we come to this part where Stephen gets the crowd mad, upset, and they are about to stone him. So he's facing death. And this is the part I want to tell you. 3 points. When you are in tough times, we need to look to God and see that he still takes care of us. In verse 55, the first thing that he did, he gazed into heaven and saw the glory of God and Jesus standing at the right hand of God. So he looked upward toward God. He didn't look sideways toward man. He didn't look to technology. There's no technology back then, but he didn't look to technology, and he looked to people. He didn't look to kings and anything, but he looked upward to God. He didn't look around. So his reliance, his trust, and his faith is upon God. That's why I told you these 2 stories. God is unchanging. God is all loving. God is all powerful. God is all caring. And by this time, Stephen knows this, and he looks upward to God. Number 2, he also looked to the glory of God, or the presence of God. It's the same verse. He gazed into heaven and saw the glory of God and Jesus standing at the right hand of God. So not only does he look upward toward the heavens, looked upward toward God, he also looked to the presence and want the presence of God to be with him when he's going through this tough time that he's going to have, which will be death. And then finally, verse 60, when Stephen is about to die, it says, then he knelt down and cried out loud in a loud voice, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. And this one I'm going to reinterpret slightly for you. Number 3, no one is to blame. Sometimes when we go through rough times, sometimes when we go through troubles, we're always looking for a reason. The first question that comes out of my mind is, why? Or who is doing this to me? Or what is happening? Type of situation. But Stephen is accepting his faith. He's looking upward. He's trusting in the presence of God. And he's not blaming anybody. He is just going to go on with this. Do not blame the sin on anybody. You forgive them. There's another version that says, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. There is no blame in the way Stephen thinks. So if we transition to us, it's the same way. We might have tough times. It's very easy for us to ask why. It's very easy for us to try to figure out how we can solve it. It's very easy to be in, how do you say it? To spiral down in depression or blame or hurt or something like this. I know that there was one time in my life when I was going through a lot of heavy depression and stress. I forgot to look upward to God. I forgot to ask for the presence of God. And I started thinking, it's all my fault. I blame myself, You can blame yourself too at times. I'm like, why am I feeling this? Why do I feel this way? Why do I not want to do this? Why? And you're in depression when you start wanting to leave people, right? Because I wish I was dead, right? Those are some of the things when you get real down to suicidal. I wish I was dead. I start thinking, maybe no one wants me. I'm no use. Maybe I should just run away and get away from everybody. And everybody else would be a lot better because they won't have to deal with me and I don't have to deal with them. So all these things comes to our minds about when we face tough situations. Tough situations in case like work. For some of you, you might be facing tough times in work. Is it like, what is it you're facing? Could you also stop, hesitate? It says, I want to look up to God. I want to ask for God's presence with me in this situations that I'm dealing with so that maybe he can help me. Because I know some people who are having tough times at work and they would share, I'm having tough times with work. But you don't hear the part where they says, I am relying on God. I am trusting for God. I know that I need to be patient. God is doing a good thing in this situation and in me. Maybe something to help me grow, maybe something to help me to realize certain things. So those are the things that we need to do, is to look up to God when we are in tough times. Or maybe we have personal health problems. Sometimes when we have personal health, or we know of someone else who is not feeling well and sick, our first thought is for them to get well. We wish they were well, and we hope they're well, and then when they don't get well, we start questioning, why aren't they well? Why isn't God taking care of this? I know several people, not here, okay, so don't look at yourself. I know several people that, I just lost my thought, who have health issues. And when they have health issues, no, not health issue, I know what it is. I know several people who her faith is not very strong. And what happens is they have loved ones that are not well. And they would ask God, please heal them, please take care of them, please. And it's very normal and natural to do that. But they weren't taken care of. They weren't healed. And so they start questioning God. This is not the time to question God. This is time to look to God, to trust in God, because God is still a caring God. God is still a powerful God. We don't understand. This is where the third part comes in. There's no blame to it. This is where we are, and we need to trust God in the situation, in the life that we are. So, the 3 points: reliance. Try to rely on an unchanging God. He is the same yesterday. He's the same today. He'll be the same tomorrow. There's a psalmist that says in Psalms 42:11, it says, I will put my hope in God. And that's what we need to do, to put our hope and reliance on him. And to trust in a God that's all powerful, all loving, all caring. And to have faith in whatever situations we have, that we'll not try to blame anyone, but allow God to help us do it. Amen.